And to me, I look at it as a stewardship issue. I see a lot of things through that lens. I'll relate back to a story when I was in the Air Force. So I didn't always care for my teeth as well as I should have when I was in my early teenage years. And I got in the Air Force. I remember the very first time I went to the dentist in the Air Force, and I had a full bird colonel, which is a little unusual, was my guy, and he came in there and looked at me, and he raked me over the coals for how I was caring for my teeth. And he said, look, you have been given a mouthful of teeth that people would want to have, and you're not taking care of them. And you need to be kicked in the rear end. Mm-hmm. And so he motivated me to steward the good teeth that I had been given to prevent these problems. He basically was telling me, look, you've got it in your power to basically avoid me for a very, very long time. Take care of your teeth. Just clean them and care for them like you should. And it motivated me to do it. We're saying the exact same thing. We have been given some health.
Yep.
Right? Some level, maybe yours might be different than mine, but whatever level we've been given, we're to steward it so that we can get the most out of it for God's glory and for the kingdom of God. So I hope that helps people kind of see the picture of how we should be caring for ourselves.
So I'm gonna bring Stephen Covey into the conversation because I love his idea of the circle of influence and the circle of concern. So the circle of influence is things that you have control over. Circle of concern is things that are of concern, but you can't do anything about right now. His point is basically that you should focus your efforts in your circle of influence, not in your circle of concern, and watch how your circle of influence expands. Okay, so what is in the circle of influence? Well, you have influence over the people who you know personally. You have influence over the domain of your workspace that you work in, et cetera, et cetera. But when you get to the center of the circle of influence, the thing that you have the most autonomy over, it's your body. That is the most local environment of any human being, is their own body. Now, what that means is the body is on the front line of stewardship. If you can't steward your body, I would question what else you can steward. So yes, it's absolutely a question of stewardship. We are fearfully and wonderfully made, but we do not fearfully and wonderfully steward what we have been given. And, well, at least most of us don't.
Yeah, and the reason we're connecting this, or the reason I'm connecting this to stewardship, is we're trying to draw this line between the spiritual and our health. And so stewardship is clearly taught throughout the Bible. We've been given a set of things that we are supposed to steward for God's glory. If that's the case with our finances and with our opportunities and with our families, surely it's also the case with our health. And if you look at the Bible in general and look at how it treats, the eat, drink, and be merry idea, generally speaking, that is related to a lack of discipline. People who are not actively pursuing God, right? And there's a time to celebrate. There's a time to eat, drink, and be merry. We're not denying that. But in general, that's not how, we're not just to consume things upon our own lust. We're to take them and multiply them for God's glory.
I love the language of stewardship when it comes to health because it is a reminder that our bodies are not our own. You steward something for somebody else. That's the whole point. That's why we talk about stewardship with money, because the underlying truth is that God owns our money. We are merely the stewards. Same with our bodies. We are to present our bodies as a living sacrifice, right? We're not our own. We're bought with a price. We should know that. And how we care for those bodies, that is how we will be evaluated for our stewardship. Now,
but I think that is a missed point. So don't just go over it too lightly. The fact that we are not our own.
mm-hmm.
I think that's lost on people when it comes to health, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if we treated ourselves as if we didn't own ourselves, right? If you give me this iPad and say, Scott, I'm going to be gone for a week, and this is my iPad, and you take care of it for me, and I'd like to get it back in the same shape or better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then I have a certain care for that. I may not do the same things with it that I would do if I owned it, right? I treat it very carefully because I want to get it back to you in good shape. We don't view our bodies that way. We don't view them as being owned by God. We view them as a source of our own pleasure, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that's an important thing that we need to get a hold of at a very base level. We are not our own. We have been bought with a price. That's not just our spirit. That is who we are as people. We are to crucify the flesh with the lust and affections thereof. Surely that has implications about what we eat and drink and the physical activities that we undertake.
Mm-hmm. I got a little reminder about the nature of stewardship just recently because you and my mom went on a 2-week trip to Africa, and my task was to basically house sit and to, keep the flowers alive, keep the dog happy, etc. I was the steward of y'all's house while you were gone. Now, I came over to the house every day to check on things, to work with the dog, etc. Did I enjoy the house while I was there? You bet I did. I love y'all's house. I love the land that y'all live on. I love y'all's dog. I enjoyed all of those things, but never did I enjoy them to the detriment of their well-being. I always tried to enjoy them in such a way as to leave them better than I found them, so that when you came back, the flowers would look at least as good or better than when you left. The dog would be at least as well behaved or better behaved, etc., etc., etc. That's what stewardship is. It's not a death sentence. It doesn't mean that pleasure no longer has a place in our lives. It absolutely does, but we need to get our priorities straight.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it does not, being healthy certainly does not mean, it does not mean never having pleasure again. In fact, what I would say is getting healthy and being healthy brings a joy that we can't have any other way because we feel better. We're able to do things that we couldn't do before. We have strength, and those things should bring us joy. We're looking for joy in that, 5-minute thing that we put in our mouth or that we consume or that we, whatever that's making us unhealthy. We're food's the easy thing to talk about. There's more aspects to it than that. Mm-hmm. But there is pleasure and joy in being healthy.
Mm-hmm. And what was my favorite part of my 2-week stewardship project? It was when you guys came back and I said, okay, here's what I've done with the place. The Christian way is to look forward always to the day of judgment, when our work will be evaluated of what sort it is. Mm-hmm. So the question is, are you going to be ashamed on that day, or are you going to be joyful that day because of what you have to show for what the Lord entrusted to you in the context of this conversation? Our bodies, but the implications are much farther reaching than that.